All right. Hello. So yeah, I got this I had this reflection yesterday about signals supporting promises, and there's some not challenges, but it's I don't think I think it will be beneficial if you think about synchronous signals and async signals. Basically, you have signals that are values, and then you have a signal that handles promises, which are considered async. And that gives some more flexibility in specifically updating those signals. So you can imagine if you want to update a signal that's a promise, maybe you put a promise there because you want the initial data, but then you want to optimistically update the data, but it's a promise. So how do you actually update that data? But we can actually handle that. And also make it more explicit that there is an async signal. So we're going to implement it. And the way we're going to do this, I think, is that we're first going to remove all this stuff. Let's make a branch. Async signal. So now a signal is just this, this, and it's just this. Okay. And then we have a type of async signal. Yeah, maybe we can define both of them. So we're gonna have two types for them. We're gonna have a maybe async signal, and the reason we have a maybe async signal is because when you want to handle something asynchronously, you want to define the signal, but you might not want to make run the promise yet. Maybe you don't have a promise yet. Maybe it's like updating the title of a post, and the signal is called updating title. You don't have any promise there yet, but you want to consume the signal, right? Let's call it undefined async signal. And that means it's undefined. And then you might set like a new value to it later, which is the actual request to setting that post title. And the point here is that, oh, it needs a T, is that now when you retrieve it, and now you don't have to give it a promise type. Like with the previous signal, you have to say promise of this or undefined or something. Now you can just say like promise of string, but now you just say string because you're calling the async signal. So you just say string. But when it's an undefined async signal, it can either be a string or it can be undefined. And the value can also be, we're going to talk about this. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You can also set it to undefined. And then we're going to talk about this one as well. I'm going to see what we're going to do because it's interesting. Like promises are so different. They have a resolved, they have a pending, resolved, and a rejected state. And the question is, what happens when you try to update its value during these states? So, for example, when you update, maybe you have a pending promise and then you set a new value there. Should it then abort the currently pending promise? I think it should, and it currently does that actually. But what if it's rejected and you try to update it? Then we need to pass. What do we pass? Do we say, like, if you try to update it while it's pending, do we then wait for it to finish and then we apply the update? Do we abort it which I think we should do, just like setting. But what if it's rejected and you want to set a new value based on the current value? Well, if it's rejected, the value is undefined. So having an undefined async signal, the undefined here means really two different things. So the signal, it means that the signal doesn't have a promise at all, but it can also be a rejected promise. That's also an undefined value of the async signal. I'm just saying this out loud. This is not something you would actually think about. But the question is like, how do you want to handle updating the value of a rejected promise? Do you want to just say the value is undefined, or do you want to... Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. By the way, this should be... so this should be returning an observable promise, which this one should also do, which this one should also do. And here you can choose if you just want to set a value, because this is also an issue. Whenever you currently have a signal of a promise and you want to update that value, you have to give it like a resolved promise. But very often you just have an initial fetching, that's a promise. And after that, it's synchronous, like the updates. So here you can choose if you want to set a new promise or just a value. And when you update, you should just then you should just use the value. So this is interesting. Like this feels, I'm not like 100% confident about this, but I haven't like done anything with this yet. So I think it will be a bit complicated under the hood, but as a developer experience, it's going to be really nice. So now you have, when you ask for the unwrap the signal, you get an observable promise. If you set a new value, you can set to the string if it's a string type, or you can set a promise of a string, or in this case, since it's an undefined async signal, you can set undefined there. No matter. Yeah, interesting. So we shouldn't say undefined here. We should say value can be undefined, and then it returns undefined. Let's put that there. So if you set it to undefined, then you get undefined back. If you set it to t or a promise of t, you get the promise back. And if you call update, that is to update an existing value, which might be undefined. But at the end of the day, you're just updating the value of the promise. Yes. And then you have async signal, which is a little bit simpler, where you just have that one, you don't have this one. And then you can say, yeah, what if you want to update it to become undefined? That's not supported. Like, I don't think that makes any sense either. If you want to set the signal back to undefined, like the mutation is done, it's resolved, and you just want to kind of remove the promise, then you just set it to undefined. You don't update it to undefined. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to make a copy of this function. This it's quite large, but this is going to be so much smoother. So first we're going to put it up here, and then we're going to remove everything that's related to asynchronicity. So we're going to say initial value, That's the same. We can remove create promise. That's a big one. And then this is the same. This is the same. We don't care about this. This is the same again. Valid instance of promise. We don't care. Cool. So that's a signal. Very straightforward. And then we have the async signal, and we're gonna wait a minute. We're actually gonna flip these over to make it a little bit more explicit. Let's see. So we're gonna call it async signal, but we're not gonna export it as async signal. We're actually gonna put it on the signal. So you say signal.async and you call it. I think that's a much nicer. So you say signal.async equals async signal. Excuse me, I'm having a cool. So let's where's the async thing? Okay, so let's review that code. So the initial value so what should we do here? So this needs to extend promise any. So this has to be a promise, right? Either it's nothing there or it is a promise. So we don't have to make that check. So that means basically if we have an initial value, it is a promise. But if we don't have an initial value, it's undefined. And then we need to create the promise here. That's fine. Yeah, by the way, this is going to be... Oh, shit. We need to... Let's see. Sorry. I have to remove this. We have to call this any, and we have to give it the actual. So let's call this undefined async signal t, and then we have initial value promise of t async signal t. What are you complaining? Oh yeah, there we go. Yes, we shouldn't have the like as signal. We rather define it at the top. Again, this looks very confusing. Yeah, we don't care about anything here. Now the question is, if there aren't any args, it's a return. And now we have the correct typing based on it being an undefined async signal or an actual async signal that's loading up a promise. And then we can check if, and this is interesting, because if type of new value is a function, the value here is it might be an observable promise. So how should we do this? I think we can just do if value value dot value or undefined. So basically what this means is the value here is either undefined or it's an observable promise that has been that is in either state. Do we have? Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting here is that new value. Oh my god. This is complicated. So what we want to do here is create result fulfill. They call it. How does this work? Create fulfilled promise. Why does this take 2? Oh, so of course. Let's see. You know what? We're gonna change this name. Just 2 seconds. Blah. We're gonna change value into promise. Because it is a promise. So then I think we can rename this to new promise. And then we can say value. We produce the new value first. And then what we're going to do is promise.resolve that. And we are going to pass in the actual value like that. So now this becomes the new promise. I don't think this can ever happen. Like a promise can never be the same as a new promise. I guess you could argue that, yeah, what we could do here is we can do this. Yeah. So if for some reason we already have a promise, we're creating a new promise, and the values of them are the same, then we just return the promise. We don't do anything. So you can imagine like you have a promise of true or false for some reason, and you update it, and then it just becomes the same value. We don't do anything. If it is an actual instance of a promise, we create the promise. So here we say, okay, equals undefined. We're going to say new promise, or we're going to say create. Okay. Else if new promise. New promise. So if it's an actual promise we're passing in, we're gonna check if it's undefined, and if it's undefined, that's gonna be the new promise. But if it's an actual value, we want to create a fulfilled promise of promise.resolve new promise, new promise. Whoa, this got really complicated, but let's take a look at how this actually yeah, so it's always so we can remove this, so we can just check if we have a promise. We have to wait for it to resolve. Why did I do? Oh, we might set a promise, in which case. Yeah. So this is just because yeah, this is fine. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't know that the promise is like an observable promise, but what we can do, we can fix that. Initial value. So we can say this is observable promise of any or undefined. That should help us a little bit. Oh yeah, doesn't exist on observable promise. Okay, this is just a small typing issue. Okay, it's more explicit. So if it's fulfilled, we're gonna do promise.value or it's undefined. So yeah, we have to do the same here. Fulfilled and promise. Why is new promise? Oh, that's any. Yeah, so this is also, well, it can be any. This is kind of annoying. It's just typing. You know what? We're just gonna make it more efficient. We don't care about this stuff. And then we're just gonna TS ignore this one. It's just internal, so we don't care about it. Okay, that was a lot of stuff, which looked super scary. Okay, let's test it. So impact, react, yarn, build. Yarn dev. Boop. Oh, it opens there. Let's go here. Oh, you have to change your. Interesting. Ooh. Oh, do I have to change my resolution? Ugh. Display. How do you do this? Can I actually? I remember this was really weird on the Mac. Ecamm wrong stream resolution. I wonder if Ecamm has a way to Stream. Yeah. Stream with a higher video bitrate. Was that the thing that was? Why does it? I wonder how that works. How do I actually like set up the? Like, I don't want to change my resolution every time I stream. That sucks. But I think it looks good. Like when I rewatched streams, they seem to be just fine. Let's see. Let's do the other thing. YouTube stream resolution too big. Oh yeah, but that's my. Oh. YouTube Studio. Wrong stream resolution. But it does show 4K, right? Don't I have 4K? Oh, I wonder. That's an issue if I don't have 4K. I thought I would have. Let's see. All right. So we have another stream in us actually have today. 4K. I actually. Whoa, that's interesting. Or is it because I need to? What is 4K? That's 2560, right? So preferences 2160p. I don't know what that means. What resolution is 4K? Come with, yeah. Why does YouTube say that I'm? Oh, the expected resolution. Oh, is this something I actually change? How do I actually? Sorry, I have to figure this out. Let's try setting up a new. YouTube set stream resolution. Where do I do that? Where do I do that? If you're streaming, you only specify your resolution frame. Oh my god. Where did I set it? Set stream resolution, manage live stream settings. The highest, there was something, the highest. Where was that? Oh my god, this is very frustrating. Let me just do a private there. Can I change the resolution? Oh, was it because I changed? Is that what changes that? Oh, the normal setting has higher video quality. Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, that's something I need to reflect on, what I want to do there. But anyways, how do I remove this thing? Delete. Yes, I understand. Delete. Okay, so I have to choose to have good streaming quality, 4K quality, or have better chat. Interesting. Anyways, what were we doing? Yeah, we were trying to open the thingy. Okay, let's see here. So we're gonna move into the dev, and then we're gonna test this. Let's just restart TS server. I made a video for some colleagues. I make a lot of videos. Nobody's watching it. Oh. Anyways, what should be possible now? Where is counter? Okay, so here what we're gonna do now is, instead of doing this, we should have an async. So now we should get an async signal back. Well, here we get a... Oh, interesting. Maybe we should have a type on that. Let's fix that as well. Function derived. Export type derived, which is T, which is basically just... It just returns that. Let's look at this again. Does it? Oh, updates directly. That's nice. Okay. I wonder how useful that is. Like, we could rather return the actual like typing for it. I think that would be more. Anyways. So now we have an async signal. Yeah, that's work. Does it actually work? Oh, what did I do? I broke it. How did I break it? So if we have an initial value, which we do, we create a promise out of it. And we have an abort controller for it, blah, 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 blah. We have a signal which we notify. Interesting. I wonder how it broke. Oh, let me debug this. Yeah, it resolves. But the signal's not working. Oh, is this because of... Where's the time? Sorry. Loading. It seems to be the suspense. What is this? Oh. Oh, that's the problem. Let's close that so it doesn't break. It just keeps calling it because we are returning a new promise every time for some reason. So when we call how is that possible? Why does it go in a loop? Let's see. What I don't understand here is that we're not creating a new promise. So why does it keep... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's stuck on pending. This should be a fulfilled promise. Oh, did I? Whatever. How can it be pending? And how can it... I'm literally... Wait a minute. Is it just... do I also get an error like this? No, that's fine. Okay, let's see. Wait, what's that? What the fuck? Ah, is this also... Oh, God damn it. Just ignore. Okay, let's try again. Why? Do I have to build it again? Oh, wait a minute. That's... Oh, sorry. This was from this one. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm gonna try building again. Yeah, it's fulfilled. And but when it retrieves the it's probably a small thing. Let's see. Async signal. So the point is that for some reason it doesn't seem to replace. Oh, look at this. This is the problem. This shouldn't be. Oh, I see. Origin promise. So that means I guess this is origin promise, and then we actually replace the promise. I made a boo-boo. There we go. Let's build it. There we go. That's working. Okay. So it's actually working. So let's kind of take a look at this. So you'll get this async signal back. I can also choose to where it's undefined async signal of string, where I can choose to So I can say, for example, if count equals 3, we're gonna time, we're gonna set it. So what we're gonna do is, let's see, counter.time, we're gonna use it, or waiting. So it starts waiting and then, oh, oh wait, 3. Wait, did I set it? It's kind of, oh, I'm not using, that doesn't matter. Okay, I'm gonna log that. See what happens. So 2, 3. Oh, it never reconciles. That's interesting. So we have another bug. So let's take a look. If I, let's see. So basically, if no args, but what happens here now is that it gets a new promise and it sees if it's a function. If we already have a promise. Oh, interesting. We need another one. If promise. They're both undefined. That's the problem. That is the problem. 1, 2, 3. Booyah! Did I have console logs here? Yeah, let's remove this one now. Nice. Let's play a bit more with the API. So what I should be able to do now is change foo, and I should be able to say time current current, and this should be a string or undefined. So if we have current, we're gonna say bar, or just keep whatever current is, undefined, whatever. So let's try. Okay, we're gonna try a couple of things. First, we're gonna create a button, counter change foo, and then we're gonna see what happens. It's waiting. Oh yeah. Let's drop that weird. Well, I guess we can do that. So first, we're gonna just click foo, right? There's no signal there. We're trying to update it. It did update it, but it has a undefined value. Yeah, because there wasn't any promise there yet, right? So that's fine. So we can say like current plus bar. Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's do this. So now it changes to bar immediately, right? Because I updated the value. But now let's try 1, 2, 3, loading, foo, updating it. Now it says foo bar, which is correct. But we can do 1, 2, 3, and while it's loading, it's aborted, and now we have high bar. So this is exactly how it should work. I think we should publish this, because you know what, we're gonna, yeah, we need to document it as well. Like you might say that no, it's much nicer to have just a signal, having that single API, and I do agree, but it has quirks. First of all, you have to, well, it has quirks updating it. Because you will get, if you try to, it's fine if you try to set it. But the problem is if you want to update it. Because what you get in the update callback, like what you get here, like in the current, is the actual promise. But what you could do current, and then you could say, yeah, now it's not a promise, but you have a promise there, and then you could say then, and then you will get the value, and then you could like update it. That would be fine. But well, and you will get an observable promise there. So what you could do is like you could say like promise dot resolve current dot status equals fulfilled. But then you couldn't use immer, right? Current dot value, like it would just be, oh. And the thing is, if you create a signal that's a promise or undefined, we don't know internally if it's supposed to be treated as a promise, which is a restriction. So you couldn't like or could we, let's think on this. Could we say that if you create a signal of promise or undefined, that if it's undefined, it will of course pass undefined in here. But if there's a promise, yeah, maybe it would work. Maybe we just say that in this signal, yeah, what if we just say, if it is an observable promise, the update function will actually give you the value of the resolved promise if resolved. If it's pending or rejected, you will get undefined. And that's regardless of you having undefined here. You know what? Let's try that. So I'm gonna do a checkout main again. What do we call this? We called it Async signal. Get checkout B. Async signal 2. Okay, let's try the other approach. I'm just gonna answer my colleague. 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. Maybe I can you can join on this. I'm describing to a colleague what RAG is. RAG is a kind of retrieving so RAG has 2 phases: information retrieval and creating information consumption. So RAG has 2 phases: information retrieval information consumption. During information retrieval, it is all about converting token dense. It's all about using a slow and expensive, slow process of scraping, a slow process of retrieving information using a slow process of not slow process. How should I put this? So I would state that RAG has 2 phases: information retrieval convert to embeddings, store in vector database. Information consumption, retrieve from, well, okay. Use information retrieval, use embedding model to create embeddings, store in vector database. Information consumption, use LM model to optimize query for relevant embeddings. And synthesize the result. And use embedding use efficient parsing of information and embedding model to create embeddings. Store in vector database. Information consumption is use LM model to optimize query for relevant optimizer for retrieving relevant embeddings and synthesize the result. So embeddings is just information is like an what are embeddings? It's like what the hell are embeddings? Use efficient parsing and chunking of information So embeddings is like taking. So embedding is fuck. I can't find the words for this. It's just a data format for LLMs to find relevant information. To find back the parsed and chunked information. Data format for LLMs to find back the parsed and chunked information based on relevancy. Using natural language is to find relevant parsed and chunked information, or to find back to find relevant parsed and chunked information based on, not based on, using natural language. So embeddings is just a data format. Listening to GitHub, like the GitHub webhook. Like the repo prompt function. So embeddings is just a way, it's just how the hell should I put it? So embeddings is just optimized query for retrieving relevant embeddings and synthesize the result, like the repo prompt function. So just like Firestore is storing JSON, on embeddings store or storing JSON, vector stores store embeddings. In Firestore, you use a query language. Oh my god. Though I would state that on embedding is a piece is okay. Let's do a proper. Though I would describe an embedding like this. You have a large document. You use a fitting parser and chunker for that document. An example of this would be a markdown parser and chunker, which puts all text within a title or into a chunk. The chunk is now converted to vectors and put into the database with a reference to the original chunk it was created from. The vectors represent semantic meaning. The vectors represent semantic meaning of the chunk. On retrieval, on consuming, on prompting the LLM, it converts its on prompting the LLM, it converts the prompt to embed to vectors. It converts the prompt to vectors, often optimizing the prompt first, or creates multiple vectors. Often optimizing, often optimizing the prompt first and even creates multiple, or often optimizing the prompt by splitting it up into multiple prompts, and to vectors, often optimize, and queries the vector DB for relevant chunks of information. On prompting the LLM, it converts the prompt to vectors, often optimizing the prompt first by where it can optimize the prompt first by splitting it up into multiple prompts. It then queries the vector DB using vectors, which basically is a semantic relevance match. It gets back results of the actual original chunks, and can then use the LLM to synthesize a response from all these results. This whole process is RAG. The embeddings are really the vectors plus their original chunk of information. Okay, I think that was good. You'll have to excuse me on that one. What were we doing? Yeah, we were gonna see if we could change this. So let's, why is this? Oh, I didn't commit it. Git check async signal. Blah. Can I check out async signal 2 now and then it's not there? Yeah. Okay, so what if we have, so this is a little bit, I'm not like super happy about this typing, but it's behind signals. I don't think you really care about this. But what we can do here is, so when you want to update, we can check if I really wanted to do a broad difference here. So we first just check if T extends promise, and then we'll create one interface. I wonder why I didn't do that. There was a reason. I can't remember. Hi, Eric. He's a childhood friend of mine who probably doesn't care at all about what I'm doing. Let's see. We're gonna try doing this. I'm not sure why. Let's see. So this should be observable. This should be observable. And this should be observable. Well, you have your domain, Eirik, that I probably have no idea. You should you should do a stream in your domain. What's that in English? It's like regulation. That would be always such an awesome stream, going through regulation, getting to the peak moment of making a decision. Let's see. This should be T. So what we can do here now is when we update, we can rather say V, and you'll return V. Well, maybe that's the thing, right? It might be V because it could be rejected or pending. So this was the big takeaway from this. And that's basically it in terms of typing. Yeah, have a good day, Eirik. I made a typo. Like, checker which fits on. Inquires the vector DB using vectors, which basically is, yeah. So my RAG explanation, if you know AI, I think it was a good explanation. So you have a large document. You use a fitting parser and chunker for that document. An example of this would be a markdown parser and chunker, which puts all text within a title. So you have like these different title headers and stuff. So each of them represents like a chunk. Probably way more complicated, but just an example. The chunk is now converted to vectors and put into the database with a reference to the original chunk it was created from. The vectors represents semantic meaning of the chunk. On prompting the LLM, it converts the prompt to vectors, where it can optimize the prompt first by splitting it up into multiple prompts. It then queries the vector DB using vectors, which basically is a semantic relevance match. It gets back results of the actual original chunks and can then use the LLM to synthesize a response from all these results. This whole process is RAG. The embeddings are really the vectors plus their original chunk of information. I think that makes sense. Okay, so what we're going to do now is make sure that if this thing is a function, we're going to check first, because if there is a value there, and like if it's a promise signal, it either is a promise or it's yeah. So I think this is kind of the discrepancy we're creating now, is that the update will be the inner value, while here it needs to be the actual promise. Or does it? Could we even fix that? Could we say that this is V? Or promise? Or T? So how would this work? So yeah, the problem here is that we can't do it like this. And the reason is that if you were like from the typing perspective, you would send the correct thing here. Like it looks correct. But from a runtime perspective, you don't know when the signal is typed as a promise and it's undefined. When you set a value, the runtime has absolutely no idea if that should be converted into a promise or not, because it doesn't have any check, right? So this is the discrepancy. Like here, it's the same between setting and updating a value, while here you have to set an actual promise, which I think makes sense. I think it makes sense because when you want to set the value, it's overwhelmingly likely that you want to run the request again, right? You're running a request. But when you want to update it, it doesn't make sense to update a promise, but it makes sense to update its inner value. So I think we're going to try that. And the way we deal with this is when there's a function, if value is instance of promise, okay, so we have to split that. Oh wait. No, wait, this won't work because what if you call updates on yeah, so there's one problem. What if you call update on a signal that's undefined and you expect it to be a promise? You get the correct typing, like the promise would say string, the typing would say string, but the runtime has no idea that the returned result from this updater. I think what we need to do here is that we need to throw an error. You can't update maybe we can say that you can't update a signal that's undefined. Could we say that? Damn it, we're stuck on we're really stuck on this. Could you say that? Because if we say that, then we say that well, it would work if we say that. But is that a good developer experience? Like, just because you allow the signal to be undefined, you can't update it? That doesn't make any sense. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. How, like, we have to find a solution for this update. So okay, again, a solution to update is that it throws when the value is undefined. Which means so it throws if the value is undefined, which means if you create a signal that's undefined, it doesn't matter if it's like you want it to be a promise or not, it's just undefined. And you try to update it, it throws an error. Like how would you actually get into that situation other than like I don't think you would practically get into that situation, because the reason you create a signal is to have something there. And if it's a promise, you're fetching a promise, or you make it undefined so that you later are able to do like a mutation type of request. But the point is you would never update that, right? That will always be a setter. You could maybe argue that you want to delay some fetching of data. Oh, but we're still... Yeah. That you would delay some fetching of data. So you make like a promise signal, and then you want to fetch some data suddenly, and then later you want to update it. But if you do that, it should throw, right? Because you're trying to update. I wish there was typing for throwable functions. Like, like if you didn't have a try catch around calling it, it would actually yeah. There is another way to think about this as well, which is giving a default value. So if the first argument to signal is a promise or undefined, you have to give it a default. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. No, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, I can't get past this. Damn it. What do I want to do here? It is really important that you can update the value of a signal that represents a promise. That is important. So it needs to work. So what's also interesting is if okay, let's try this. Like, we're not really changing anything because this update was never in use anyways with an observable promise. Or can we try this? Didn't I just say it doesn't work? Oh no, it was this one. No, but this one as well, right? Yeah, sorry, I meant we throw on update if the value is undefined. You can't update an undefined signal. And that's something we can document. Damn it. Can you say that? This is the kind of thing I need to think about. But I really want a version where you can use this. You know what we could also do? We could let's say that you can only update when the promise is resolved. So if it's like, so that could be like a thing of updating our promise value is if it's pending or it's rejected, it throws. And then you have to decide what you want to do. If it's if the promise is pending, do you want to wait for it to be done and then update the value? Or if it's rejected, do you want to set the new value? We can even make it async. So it's more obvious that that is interesting. Is that a good way to do it? So well, I can't decide on this, and but I don't feel like I can move on without solving this first. So maybe I should just reflect on this, and then we can do another stream when I've actually figured out what I want to do with this, and then we'll continue refactoring the project. About the transient store, as a final note, is that what I realized is we're going to update the documentation. So when you're going to learn, you have store and then you have scoping. But those are kind of the same thing, scoping and transient. It means that by default, a store doesn't take any props, right? And what does that really mean conceptually? Well, what it means is that it can mean two things. It's either a global store, because it doesn't rely on any other state, or to put it this way, the only reason for a store, to put it this way, if a store doesn't require any props, it should either be global or it should be integrated into a parent store. That's the rule of thumb. There's no reason to create a store without props that's scoped. Absolutely no reason. Well, unless, I don't know, you want to like split things up, but I don't think it. Maybe I should take it the other way. So if a store takes props, it means it is a transient store. And a transient store is basically a store that depends on other state and will unmount when that state isn't there anymore, isn't available anymore. So as an example, my God, this stream is horrible. It's just me not being able to. So as an example, where are the stores? We have an assistant store, for example. And this assistant store, it doesn't have any props. But I'm providing it around the assistant UI. But there isn't really any reason to do that. I can put this in the App Store, and anything could access this assistant through the App Store. That's the point. Because it doesn't rely on any other state than the global store and the user, which is already in the App Store. So I could create assistant function that does all of this and just return the assistant, and then the App Store returns. So I say like app.assistant instead. But then you have edit dinner store, which is a transient store in the sense that it does rely on props. It does rely on state coming from React. In this case, that is a dinner. And then we create a lot of functionality around that state. But if that dinner changes, it will unmount this store, and it will either create a new store because there's a new dinner, which makes me think that we could, like, the way you would do that is that you will make the dinner a key of the provider to ensure that it remounts the provider when the dinner changes. We could maybe automate that. I'm not sure if we should. Something to think about. But anyways, that's what we mean by transient store. It's something that relies on outside state and is like a temporary thing. So that's what I try to express. Is like there's no reason to have a store that doesn't rely on props and nested, because the only thing that can't rely on other state is the global store. So then you have like a very clear definition of, okay, you can have a global store, it doesn't rely on any other state. All other stores will rely on some piece of state. That is the power of Impact. It's to be able to create these stores that depend on certain state and make them like transient, so that they live as long as that state is valid. So the App Store lives as long as the user is valid. The user and family is valid. The edit dinner store lives as long as the initial dinner is valid. And so on and so on. Yeah. Anyways, so that's what I wanted to. But it's more of a documentation thing than anything else. But yeah, I'll think about the async stuff, and then we'll figure out what to do with it. Cool. Bye for now.